Drew Alba alongside manager of the Walla Walla Sweets, Colby Watilo, for another edition of Countdown with Colby. Coach, we're back here in Corvallis. First time we're doing this. Nice stadium.
Yeah, it's a beautiful setup. Obviously, fun to get to come here to Corvallis and Oregon State. Great facilities, great support for the Knights, and so it makes it a fun environment to play baseball in.
What's your experience been like here, and have you been here before?
I've been here before. It's probably 2016 or 2017 when I was with the Sweets as a player. So it's been a little while. It's been cool to see how the setup and the stands and the infrastructure has grown over the years. Spending some time in the Willamette Valley at George Fox and whatnot. I had the opportunity to be here for different recruiting events and whatnot. So it's been fun to check in on it. But it's a fun place to play. Great park. I think the guys enjoy being here. So it's been great so far.
Sweets take on the Knights here in game number 2, and yesterday's ball game obviously didn't go your way. It continues to be kind of a problem in the first couple of innings, off on the wrong foot, and then the ship kind of settles. But how do you get rid of that rocky start?
Yeah, I think it's really just making sure that we're doing everything we can to make the Knights earn what they get. I've said it before, but the talented teams and the best teams are the ones that make everything pay. When you have a small blunder here, you have one hiccup, right, and then all of a sudden it costs you 2 runs. And the Knights are doing a good job of that in game 1, and so something that hopefully we can do a little bit better job minimizing here as we go forward, trying to make sure that we are making them earn what they did. If they're going to score runs early, it's not going to be because they did extra stuff because we gave them those opportunities. So I think that's a big thing for us, and really just it really comes down to, can we go win the first third of tonight's game? It's been a few nights in a row where after 3 or 4 innings we find ourselves down pretty big, right, with a huge hole to try to climb out of, and so that's a major adjustment that hopefully we can make as soon as possible.
New guy in the lineup today, Brooks Fisher. What do you expect out of him?
Yeah, excited to have Brooks here, coming up from California, kind of a guy to bolster our infield a little bit. Highly talented player. Coming out of high school as well. So another guy who's going to have to make the quick adjustment to the pace of the game. He's not going to have the luxury of having a month or a month and a half to try to settle into the pace. Right, with 8 games to play, it's you got to be ready to go from the start. And he's done a good job getting himself settled in since he got to Walla Walla on Sunday. So it'll be good to see him out there at third base, a place where he's comfortable. Hopefully it's a place that, there's not too many growing pains with playing out of position or playing somewhere he's unfamiliar. So it'll be good to see him out there. Another left-handed bat for us in the lineup. He helps us out in a lot of ways.
You mentioned just 8 games remaining. How do you break this slide and kind of come through strong at the end of the year here?
We need to play for momentum early. It's been tough when you stack multiple games in a row where you're trying to claw back from a big deficit. It's I guess, for lack of a better way to describe it, it gets a little defeating, I think, for the dugout, right, when you look up at the scoreboard and and you're down big after the first few innings. So we have to do everything we can. We have Payson Sweeney going on the mound. Hopefully the expectation is he's going to go out there and get us a couple zeros here to start things off, give our offense a chance to score early, and let us be the ones that kind of take the early momentum, that take the early lead in the game, and make the Knights have to try to respond to us a little bit more.
Does that come with having a shorter leash for the starting guys?
Yeah, to an extent. It's we're trying to play that game, but we're also trying to know that, hey, we have only a certain number of arms that we can manage. So we have to try to find a way to maximize the innings that we can get out of guys, and make sure that at the same time, we're also putting ourselves in a spot where we don't get buried in a game and all of a sudden it's an insurmountable deficit to try to climb out of.
Payson Sweeney out on the hill. We're getting to that point in the season, Coach, where this could be one of their last times out there on the mound, these starting pitchers. What do you tell them to say, let's take some momentum into the fall for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all the work that they're, all these guys are doing this summer is trying to set the groundwork, try to set the foundation for what they're going to do when they go back to their schools in the fall. So, yeah, there's definitely some, I know the guys have been joking around. What's your legacy outing? What's your what's the outing or the performance that you get remembered by? And so, not necessarily the guys are putting pressure on themselves to do that, but there is some, I think guys are, hey, we want to make sure we're going out on a strong foot, that when we leave here, we're better than we were when we came in. And so the guys are, going about it with that mindset every day, and hopefully we can come together collectively as a group to do that here as a group, final 8 games in the regular season.
Yeah, that one big outing you can kind of point back to and say everything was working for there, and kind of try to build on that moving on into the future. So, Coach, again, you mentioned it, 8 games left, and you lost 5 straight games, but you can kind of zoom out. It's a 2.5 lead. There's 2 teams that you could pass. You got the Bend Elks and the Marion Berries both tied. It's not out of the question at all to go on a little bit of a heater here. does that kind of play into your perception of a week ago the Berries were 2.5 back of the Sweets, and now it's flipped? That could flip in a week.
Yeah, really, it's things can happen very quickly, especially when you're playing 8 nights in a row. I know the Bend Elks are in the middle or kind of on the back third of a 13 games in a row slide. A lot of them against the Pickles. The Marion Berries also have a series to go against the Pickles, and so there's, I think, a lot of wins and losses to be had by all teams involved still on the table, and so it comes down to, again, taking care of what we can, but I think playing with a little bit of that sense of urgency of, hey, yes, we have time to make a change, and we have time to do the things we need to do to get the results we want. But we got to go. If we're going to do it, we got to be about it from inning number 1 when we show up today.
This might sound counterintuitive, but we're towards the end of the season here, and I almost feel like it's one game at a time. The mentality is even more so now at the end of the season. Let's win today, let's focus on today, and then we focus on tomorrow.
Yep, yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's been something we've been trying to keep the guys focused on of, hey, we can look at the standings, we can try to do the math and say, hey, this is how many games we need to win, this is how many we have left, but at the same time, it's, the only thing you can really impact is the efforts you put forward today and what we do in the next 9 innings that we're going to see tonight. And so trying to have the expectation that we're going to go out and put our focus in that when we take the field, and then once we get off the field and the end of tonight's game happens, then we can evaluate and kind of see where we're at.
No doubt today's a big one, and this leads us to our question of the day. All right, Coach, we're in a beautiful Goss Stadium here at Corvallis, so this is the question of the day. What stadium is the best in NCAA?
Oh,
there's a lot of options.
Yeah, that is. That's.
I guess maybe for ones that you've been to.
Gosh, I have to be careful around here. You don't.
Does this rank up there?
Yeah, of course. Of ones I've been to, this one's been up there. I've had the luxury of going to most of the Division I stadiums in the Northwest and
former Pac-12 schools, all that.
Yeah, the former Pac-12 RIP.
I was talking about that in the broadcast. Crazy. Like technically, Oregon State isn't even Power 4 right now, and they're one of the best teams in the country. Yeah,
that's what I'll give them a shout out. The 11.7 podcast. I don't know if it's a pretty big Division I baseball covering media source, and that was always their big joke is that, hey, Oregon State, one of the top mid majors in the country, right?
Mid majors that you see the banners. It's like they just won a championship 5 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, so I don't know if I have a choice. Well, I've had the opportunity to work camp at Stanford a couple of times, and summer nights on the farm at Stanford is tough to beat there in the Bay Area. So that's a nice facility. It's very, very classic, very traditional, very not a lot of it's unique in that it's very professional and clean cut. It's not like crazy, and there's a lot of bells and whistles about it. Sure. So it's just a traditionalist good ballpark. So
do you look for something in a college stadium different to an MLB stadium? More classic, more homey.
I like the tradition and kind of the pride. I think that comes with kind of some of the stadiums. Dawson, Oregon State being a great example of that. Is you walk in on the field at Oregon State and you're always kind of reminded of it's not the biggest stadium that exists in Division I as far as you think about how deep the seating is and the actual capacity compared to an LSU or a place that's going to seat over 12,000 every single night. So there's some unique characteristics of that, but I think the tradition and the pride, and you think about the various players that have come through here, you think about the various teams and the memories, and especially with it being in the Northwest, some of the personal connection you might have to people or coaches who have been here. And so I think that's something that maybe weighs a little bit more than a pro stadium, but the pros have that in their own sense as well. You feel that when you step on foot on the field at T-Mobile and you're like, hey, this is the same outfield that Julio's running around in, or at home plate, this is where Cal's posting up every night. So
in today's game, the Sweets are going to go back out on the field. A big one today. Game number 2 against the Corvallis Knights, 6:35 p.m. First pitch. Thanks so much, Coach.
Yeah, thanks, Drew. Go Sweets.